This video is brought to you by Sporlan, quality, integrity, and tradition.
Well, we got an emergency service call. It's November 16th, it's Saturday, 1 p.m., and they said the exhaust fan's making a loud noise. As you can see, this thing is vibrating to all heck right now. So bad that that thing's going crazy. The little exhaust port broke off. So, whoa, let's shut this guy down and see if there's a towel stuck in it. I'm wondering, kind of thinking that's what it's gonna be, is a towel stuck in the fan. So we're gonna let it slow down and we'll see if we can get this thing out. All right. It is a towel stuck in the fan, look at that. Okay, so I can tell you that this fan is trashed. So we are gonna actually measure this fan for replacement because the whole thing's busted real quick before I turn it back on. The most important information we need right now is the wheel height. That's approximately 6 inches, and the diameter is approximately, it's usually right on the outside of the cone, about 12 inches. So 6 by 12, I should be able to work with that. Now we're gonna put the fan down, and I got grease all over my gloves, and turn this thing back on and hope that it works better. Hey, look at that, it's not vibrating like crazy anymore. So we're gonna talk to them about getting a fan replaced on this because the whole thing is just leaking grease everywhere, all the ports. Now, some of that is from me tipping it over, but not all of it right now because it was already greasy when I got up here. And you can see it's so bad that that fell out, that exhaust port right here. That's crazy. So yeah, this is what happens when the cooks suck up a towel and don't say anything. I'm gonna get a little bit more information off this guy real quick. One thing that I never understood is they don't clean the inside of these fans out. Like, all that grease intrusion in there is causing that motor to overheat too. And then look right here, you can see where when the hood cleaners do their cleanings, the cleaner has been stripping that stuff off. Like, this thing's just been a nightmare. So I'm gonna do my best to clean up the side of the motor so I can get information off the data plate. The other thing that we need for an exhaust fan replacement is the diameter of the curb that it sits on and the diameter ID of the fan itself. If it's square, we gotta mark that it's square. It is, because I know this fan really well. But you see all this grease right here? Like, this grease all up in there, that's a problem. That's the fan leaking from the inside. They're also not cleaning it enough too, or someone didn't clean it, or who knows. But yeah, this thing's bad. You can see there's more grease on the outside of the fan than there is coming out of the grease spout itself, which makes me wonder if there's something blocking off the grease spout too. Like, this whole thing's just a dumpster fire. The other fans look to be in pretty decent shape. Don't really see any big problems with those. All these other ones, other than this one making a whining sound. This one's running, so, okay, well, I'm just gonna keep getting all this information. I'm trying my best to not have to come back until we potentially replace this fan, right? We still have to quote it, but I need to get the information off the motor. I'm gonna go over here. Now, you can see that there's a little bit of the data tag showing because I've been working at it. What I do is take a little bit of rust buster, which is basically just a penetrating oil. WD-40 or something like that would work too, and a clean towel, and I'm just scrubbing the motor plate. I have a wire brush if I have to, but I prefer not to use the wire brush because that can ruin the data plate. So I'm just trying to get the grease to break free so that way I can read the motor nameplate to figure out what horsepower this motor is.
So we got the lift out, we got the new fan right here. We're gonna pull this thing up and get the fan changed out.
All right, we got power turned off, so we're gonna isolate it right here, and then we're just swapping out this fan. So we're trying to do our best to be as fast as possible because they are in an operating kitchen and it's running in the building right now. So this fan has the super hinge kit. These are really nice hinges. They have a pilot bit, that's a shorty or pilot screw that holds it in place, and then you bolt through with 7/16 nuts and washers and bolts and all that stuff. And So we've got that loose, so now we set the fan back down, take out these shorties, Then we can lift the fan off, put the new one in place, and then start putting it together. Okay, we got the new fan up. You can see that the grease cleaners are really gonna have to get in here and clean. I can wipe it down, that's about it. But we had to bolt it to the hinge. We're running the conduit now. New conduit, making it as short as possible so there's less slack. I like straights rather than 90s because 90s are hard to work with, so I always try to go with straights. We're gonna put new wire in, new switch, and we're almost there. All right, so we got the fan installed. We checked the phase rotation, it's correct. There's a sticker in here telling us what direction. The last thing I wanna check is I wanna open this up just to make sure it's not wired for 460 because this is a 230 460 motor. So, yeah, we're gonna do that. Everything else is looking pretty good. We're gonna try to clean up the grease, but we can only do so much. So when you start up these fans, you gotta make sure you keep your eyes away because there'll be dust and stuff blowing out. The motor we verified is wired for 208 3-phase, and it's allowed to run 2.44 amps. We're right there. So we're good to go. Yeah, we're good to go on that. So I believe this fan is running 100% too, because I don't think the VFD downstairs is wired in. The customer has a bypass, so not much we can do to change that, but we're fine. This fan is on. We did our best to wipe it down, but we're not grease cleaners. We just took towels, you know, put it in here. We're gonna put the cover plates on and all that good stuff, and they are good to cook now. Just like that, we are good. It's about 9:30 a.m. We gave them the all clear to start cooking. They're good to go. Like I said, we did our best, but we're not grease cleaners. They got to get their special chemicals that break down that grease, but we wiped it all down as much as possible. We had to use the old grease trap because of the fitment. These fans come with a new grease trap, but it's way too big and it doesn't fit with their operation. So got this one right here, and yeah, all is well.
So I kind of already had a hunch when I got the service call that more than likely they sucked up a towel into the fan. So here's the deal. This has been a problem in restaurants for as long as I've worked in them. A good majority of the time, what happens is the kitchen staff decides that they want to wipe down the hoods before they put up the hood filters. So oftentimes the operations will take down the hood filters at nighttime, soak them in a cleaner, and then in the morning, when the kitchen staff gets there, before they put the hood filters up, they will wipe down the hoods. But the key thing is that a good majority of the time they don't turn off the exhaust fans. And if they don't turn off the exhaust fans, that's how a towel can get sucked up into the hoods. When they're wiping down the insides, it happens, they get sucked up. Usually, this is just my, opinion on how things happen, but the human mind is, oh my gosh, I did something wrong. Let's just not say anything about it and see if it goes away. The cooks never say anything to the managers usually, okay? Then we get an emergency service call and everybody plays dumb, okay? But, I mean, clearly only one person was wiping down the hoods in the morning, A lot of it goes on the restaurants. There's a lot of stuff, and this is just my opinion. There's a lot of stuff happening in a restaurant. The management on site has a lot of tasks, and they have to oversee to make sure everybody's doing their tasks correctly, but there's not enough hours in the day for them to watch every single step, and mistakes happen, okay? It doesn't happen at the same restaurant over and over and over again, but it happens at least maybe every 2 months for me. We'll get a service call, exhaust fans are vibrating like crazy. Now here's the thing. I can probably tell the management to shut off the exhaust fans, go up onto the roof, hinge it, check it out. But it's best when we go out because we can see issues like what I saw in this video. The fan itself was in really, really bad shape, okay? The towel itself caused the hood to vibrate so bad that the exhaust ports came out. There was actually 2 of them laying on the ground. But that wasn't even the real kicker for me because that particular fan, we could have put the exhaust ports back in, probably would have been fine. The big kicker for me was the grease. There was grease leaking from every port on that exhaust fan in places that had nothing to do with the vibration, okay? And it had been happening for a while. There was already grease on the ground. Like, that was a problem. The fan itself needed to be replaced. Now, this is happening more and more where the customers aren't routinely cleaning the fans as much as they probably should. And, this kind of stuff happens. It also goes to show you that these fans are spinning at such a high speed that the centrifugal force, I believe that's the right term, of that as it's spinning, even the slightest bit of weight, something as light as a shop towel, gets sucked up to the side of that fan, and it can completely throw the balance of that fan off and cause the whole fan to implode on itself, okay? Those things are spinning fast. Now, in this situation, also, I mentioned in the video that the customer used to have a VFD on this fan, variable frequency drive, that runs the motor at variable speeds, right? It can slow it down and speed it up. But they have since had all the VFDs bypassed on this, and these fans now run at 100%, okay? Sometimes, I don't remember in this situation, they'll have a motor starter installed downstairs. I've also done those conversions before too, where you remove everything and convert it over to a conventional system with switches and motor starters. I don't think that has happened at this restaurant yet, because I don't remember doing this one. So they probably still have a bunch of bypass VFDs, and that fan is now running at full speed. That's why it was slightly over by like a tenth the rated or the RLA of the motor, okay? In reality, I'm not too concerned about that because the meters can oftentimes be off depending on where you place the wire in the little clamp or whatever. But then also, it's not ideal, but there is a safety factor built into the rope or into the motor that doesn't allow it to operate outside of its envelope for short periods of time. This one, I'm not personally concerned with how much it's operating outside of the envelope, right? Because it's minor, if anything. If it was an amp over, a half amp over, I'd be more concerned. But we're like at a tenth. I'm not too concerned about that. I think we're going to be okay. And like I said, there's not much I can do to slow down that fan at this point. If the customer was allow us to put a VFD back in, then we certainly could slow down that fan and get it operating within its envelope. The other thing, is that we just do the best. We do with what the customers allow us to, right? We just try our best. So when I walk up to these calls, I'm always thinking about the big picture, right? And had I just simply walked the customer through shutting off the fan, I personally would not have been able to see that the fan itself was damaged. The customer may or may not have told me, but, basically I would have said, go upstairs, turn off the fan, hinge it. Now, what happens if the hinges were broken and the fan fell down and it was catastrophically damaged, right? Just in, hypothetical, this fan wasn't already damaged. The customer hinged it, the hinge broke, the fan falls on the ground. Then the fan is damaged, the customer's SOL basically, right? Those are things that as technicians, we can observe when we get there. So that's why I personally don't like recommending to the customer that they go up and try to remove whatever may be in there themselves. Now, if they take it upon themselves and they call me, dude, I'm up on the roof, I've already lifted this fan up. I mean, they're already doing what they've done, right? There's nothing I can do about that. It's their equipment. But me personally, I don't want to necessarily push them to do things that may or may not be out of their comfort zone. Even resetting breakers can be tricky because you have a customer, for instance, and you tell them, hey, go make sure the breaker's not tripped. And they tell you, no, I turned it on and off, but was it tripped? Well, I just turned it off. Like, they could inadvertently reset it without even knowing, right? And there's a difference between an off breaker and a tripped breaker when it comes to diagnosing. So if a customer calls me and says, yeah, it was off, I turned it on, but in reality they reset it, there's a whole different dynamic and way that I would troubleshoot that problem. So I'm very cautious about walking customers through things. There's certain things I will try to help a customer, but I'm very reluctant to push them to do things that, may not allow me to properly diagnose it, may lead to a bigger problem, bigger failures, that kind of stuff. So that's my 2 cents on it. Again, that's just how I do things. I'm not saying that you all have to do it the same way. I know that, my brain, I say all the time, tends to work a little bit differently than others. That's just how I operate, okay? And that's how I choose to operate my company. But again, no judgment to others that do things differently. Some people just, don't want to go out on an emergency service call, and so be it. That's your whatever, you want to do that. Now, in this one, you remember too, these videos are training aids for my employees, right? So I encourage my employees to watch these and look like, okay, so yes, we pulled the fan out, and yes, it wasn't vibrating as bad anymore. And yes, it probably would still be working just fine today if we simply just pulled out the fan. But we had an opportunity to give the customer a better operating piece of equipment. We're not ripping them off. We're not doing anything. We're completely open with them. Look, this fan itself is compromised. The grease is pouring out of places it shouldn't be pouring out. There's clearly a problem with the fan. And life happens, okay? And a lot of this could have been prevented had the customer done more routine maintenance. But again, it is what it is. I'm just here to pass the information along, and then I let the customers, corporate offices make decisions. Now, here's another thing to understand too. And I like to address the things in the comments that I see. A lot of times in my comments, I'll see people making comments that, yeah, the management, they're not, you need to convince the management to do more, or the manager on duty needs to do better, or all this different stuff. That's fine and dandy, but I don't work for the corporate office. That's not my position within the company. I am an outside vendor that is there, and my job literally is to report to a specific person in the corporate office, and that's my job, okay? I'm cordial and I'm polite, and I do communicate with on-site management, but I don't work for on-site management. It is not my job to get mad at on-site management. I am here to work for the specific person in the corporate office, and I report my findings to that person, and then that person does with it what they choose to do with it. It is what it is. I'm just here. They hired me. I do what I'm told to do, basically, okay? So we can only do what we're allowed to do within, the scope of work, kind of a thing. So I try my best, and I hope that my employees follow my recommendations, and maybe, just maybe, as you are watching this video, you get something from this video too. Whether it be good, bad, I don't know. This is how I do it. Choose to do with that as you please. I really do appreciate you making it to the end of the video. Do me a favor, let me know in the comments. Would you have just taken the towel out and moved on? Or do you think I was justified in the way that I recommended replacement because the fan itself was compromised, the grease was leaking out of places? Do you think, I'm curious, do you think I should do a better job of holding the hand of the customer and really taking them up there and scolding them and telling them that they, all this different stuff? Like, what is your take on this when you work with customers? And I'm curious too, if you do have a take on how you would have approached this call differently. Are you just a service technician, or are you in a position where you make decisions on behalf of your company? I'm very curious about that. Again, no judgment. If you think differently than me, let me know down in the YouTube comments. That'd be very much appreciated. If you guys haven't already, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. It really does help the channel to grow. Share these videos with anybody you think they can benefit from them, okay? I'd really very much appreciate that. If you are interested in supporting this channel, the easiest way to support this channel is literally just watch the videos from beginning to end. That really is the easiest way. There's a couple other ways if you're interested. You can support the channel via Patreon. Patreon is a way that you can make a monthly commitment to the channel. It's a reoccurring charge. You get to choose between certain amounts. It's been a long time since I've logged into there, but that is one way. You can donate one time through PayPal. You can also make a monthly commitment through YouTube channel memberships, which is another way. The YouTube channel memberships oftentimes will get early access to the videos, usually a day or two before they post. It's just one thing that happens to be a perk. And those are all different ways that you can choose to donate to the channel. There's links in the show notes for all three of those. Another great way to help support the channel is by going to my website, hvacrvideos.com, where we have merchandise available. That's another great way to help support the channel. Now, we don't try to mark up our merchandise crazy amounts, not judging anybody that does. It's just not my style. So on average, like a hat, I make $5 off of the hat, $5-6 right in there. Probably $5 these days with the way prices of everything going up. It's been a long time since I've looked at my pricing. But same thing with the shirts. The sweaters, I'm actually negative on those because we're trying to phase those out. So if you want to get a deal on the sweater, I think they're in the $25 range. I can't remember exactly. But that's blowout prices. We're literally clearing out stock on the sweaters. They are really nice sweaters. They just don't sell. So we're just moving them out of inventory because we do stock all our own merchandise at my home and ship it out from there. And we just kind of ran out of space. So sweaters, but anyways, we try not to step on the merch too much. We try to keep it relatively priced, right? The biggest seller on the merchandise, though, is the hats. The hats are the number one thing, and those are going to stay on the website for the foreseeable future, basically. Last but not least, though, if you are interested in supporting the channel, you can go to truetechtools.com. If you see me using tools in my videos, usually, most of the time, I'm buying them from truetechtools.com, and I actually have an affiliate program set up with truetechtools.com. So if you use my offer code BIGPICTURE, one word, you get an 8% discount at checkout on most items. There's a few things it doesn't apply to, but it's a great way to help support the channel. And when you do use that discount code, And if you get that 8% discount, I also get a small commission on the backside from that purchase. So it's a really great way to help support the channel because you get something, you're using a discount code, you get a great price, and then I get a small commission from that. So again, TrueTechTools.com. You can use my offer code BIGPICTURE, one word, again for that 8% discount. So that's another great way to help support the channel. But again, the easiest way, I've said in almost every other video, really the easiest way to support this channel is just watch the videos from beginning to end. That really is the easiest way. Thank you so very much. I really do appreciate you. Leave me some feedback down in the YouTube comments. Let me know what you think. We'll catch you on the next one, okay?